Hey everybody, welcome back. Today we're making a creamy mushroom and chicken pasta, a weeknight meal that feels a little fancier than your usual weeknight pasta, but doesn't actually take that much more effort. So this is the kind of dish that comes together quickly, but still has enough richness and flavor to make it feel like something special. So let's get into it. I'm using barbecued chicken for this one because I like a little bit of the smoky flavor that it brings. I've just lightly seasoned the chicken with some salt, pepper, garlic powder, and some Montreal steak spice, which is just a combination all-purpose steak seasoning. You could also cook your chicken breasts or fillets in a skillet, or you could use a store-bought rotisserie chicken. This dish is pretty flexible, which is what makes it good for weeknights. First things first, I'm going to get a big pot of water on the boil here for the pasta. I'm using spaghetti today, but this recipe works equally well with linguine or penne or any other pasta that you happen to have on hand. So salt the water really well. Pasta needs that seasoning to come from the water to bring out its flavor. Now while that water is coming to the boil, we'll start the sauce. Heat up a splash of olive oil in a large skillet, and then add your sliced mushrooms. When the mushrooms are all in the pan, give them time to really brown. Don't stir them too often, just let them sit against the hot pan so they get a nice golden color. Mushrooms are full of water, so if you rush this step, they'll just steam instead of caramelizing, and that golden brown is really where the flavor lives. Here's a quick little note on what's actually happening there. Browning mushrooms is all about a Maillard reaction, which is the chemical reaction between the amino acids and the sugars in the mushrooms when they hit the high heat of the pan. It's what creates those complex savory flavors and gives a nice deep golden color to foods. If you let the mushrooms sit and really sear, you're unlocking way more flavor than if you move them around a lot in the pan. So once these mushrooms are looking good, add in a couple of cloves of minced garlic and just give it about a minute. Garlic cooks really quickly and you don't want it to burn here. At this point, I'm going to deglaze with a splash of wine, or in this case, I'm using Pinot de Charente, which is an aperitif that we happen to have in the fridge. But you could use any white wine here, or vermouth if that's what you've got, and then cook it down for a minute or two so that the alcohol evaporates, leaving just the flavor behind. And if you want to avoid the booze altogether, you could add some apple juice, or chicken stock, or even just some water. Then I'm going to add a spoonful of grainy mustard. This bit of mustard adds a subtle tang and it helps balance out the richness of the cream. Now we're going to pour in the cream. I'm using half and half or coffee cream here, but you could swap it out for heavy cream if you wanted to make this dish even richer. Now we're going to stir it through, season it with a good amount of salt and pepper. Then I'm going to grate in some Grana Padano cheese here. This cheese will melt into the cream and it'll help thicken it up into a proper sauce. Now you want to turn the heat off on the sauce at this point. By now your pasta should be ready, so drain it, but save a splash of the cooking water in case you need it to loosen up the sauce later. Then I'm going to add the pasta straight into the skillet with the creamy mushroom sauce and toss it around so every strand gets coated. Now the chicken's all cooked, so we're going to slice it up into bite-sized pieces. And then I'll add that to the pan, and we'll stir everything together. Now if your sauce is a little too thick, you can add in a spoonful or two of that reserved pasta water to loosen it up. Now we're going to give it a final toss, and we're all ready to serve. So pile it into bowls or onto a plate, grate over a bit more cheese, and that's it. Creamy mushroom and chicken pasta. It's rich, it's savory, nice and satisfying, but it's still easy enough to pull off on a weeknight. Now let's talk about the cost. For this dish, the chicken runs about $7, and the pasta a couple of dollars, and then the mushrooms were just around $3. Then there's the cream, the cheese, and a few pantry staples that also came up to $2 or $3. Altogether, it was $14.79 for a pretty big pan of pasta here that served 4 people comfortably. So that's about $3.50 a portion. Not too bad for something that feels near restaurant quality. So as for timing, you're looking at about 10 minutes of prep here, and then 25 minutes of cooking, depending on whether you barbecue the chicken or if you're using leftovers or store-bought chicken breast. So dinner's on the table in little more than a half an hour, which makes this a great option for weeknights when you want something maybe a little more indulgent, but without spending all evening in the kitchen. Anyway, that's it for today. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button. And since this is still a new channel, I'd love it if you'd subscribe so that I can keep bringing you more recipes and ideas like this one. Talk soon.